New AI robots like these kamikaze drones and this AI girlfriend are becoming everything that officials are terrified of. Almost every top Silicon Valley leader is going out of their way to control the AI revolution that's taking over the world. As the people who benefit the most from AI are now the ones most scared by it. And so I asked ChatGPT itself whether AI should be regulated. Its answer? Yes. In fact, ChatGPT wrote a whole news article on New York Daily News warning humanity on the future of AI and the dangers this is going to bring to all of us. In fact, it's getting so out of control that countries like Italy are outright banning AI out of fears it will completely rip apart the fabric of society. So Silicon Valley titans, governments, and even AI itself are now becoming terrified by AI, then the important question is, why? Why are they so terrified? And what is the future going to look like 10 years from now? Well, after countless hours of research, I fell down a rabbit hole. A rabbit hole in AI that goes deeper than I could have possibly imagined. But to understand why AI itself is now beginning to be terrified by AI, we need to understand the key players behind the AI revolution. Two main players that have emerged is Microsoft with their takeover of OpenAI and Google with their own unimaginatively named Google AI. And so the important question right now is who's actually winning the AI arms race? Well, at first, Microsoft took the lead. AI was already on people's radars, but interest in the field exploded once it finally started showing some promise when ChatGPT was released. When it launched in late November of 2022, people were blown away by how much it knew and its ability to implement its vast depths of knowledge.
A new artificial intelligence tool known as ChatGPT is gaining popularity for its ability to craft emails, write research papers, and answer almost any question in a matter of seconds.
But I thought, okay, let's put my text description in, tell it to translate this into this obscure Google Apps script, see what it does. And it wrote the code for me.
What have your people done? Your AI people with this fucking ChatGPT shit. This scares the fuck out of me. It's your people.
What do you mean?
Your AI people. Your wacky coders. What have you done?
All for free, it could write you code, compose poetry, hold a conversation, and even pass medical and law exams. It took the world by storm, as in just 2 months of its launch, it already had over 100 million unique users, breezing past TikTok's record of 9 months. And so by this point, Microsoft had basically made an AI program capable of answering pretty much any question you had. And this was an existential threat for Google, wiping over $100 billion of its stock valuation. Because Google wasn't offering personalized responses to searches, and it didn't allow AI to do things like your homework for you. And that's why when Microsoft announced that they were going to integrate ChatGPT into Bing itself, Google knew they were in deep trouble. Their stock crashed, employees scrambled, and Google was in a complete meltdown, all while Microsoft was showing off their capabilities.
Microsoft's announced plans to improve its Bing search engine to include artificial intelligence. The company boasts it will change the way we use the internet.
Start to see how we start to compile the answer, highlight these web links, we can annotate the results.
You could ask Bing to compare the best 4K TVs, find the best price, and then formulate this all into a neat table that you can email to your partner.
I'm traveling to Mexico, and with the new Bing, I now don't have to start with something that's dumbed down. Create an itinerary for a 5-day trip to Mexico City for me and my family. And just like that, Bing goes to work.
Microsoft is clearly trying to take away search engine market share from Google,
giving users a very big reason to switch to Bing instead of Google, which of course cut into Google's biggest source of revenue. However, Google wasn't stupid. They've been the leaders of AI since the beginning, and they had anticipated the threat. Because just like Microsoft, Google has been pouring tens of billions into AI. And that's why a few months after ChatGPT was released, Google did have something to compete with it. They released their demo for Bard.
Google now getting into the world of AI chatbots.
Google's Bard soft launched today.
Google says it's launching its own artificial intelligence-powered chatbot to rival ChatGPT.
However, Bard only made things so much worse for Google, as it wasn't integrated into anything else, and hilariously made a massive error in the presentation.
In the ad, Bard is given the prompt, quote, "What new discoveries from the James Webb Space Telescope can I tell my 9-year-old about?" Bard responds with a number of answers, including one suggesting the JWST was used to take the very first pictures of a planet outside the Earth's solar system, or exoplanets. This is inaccurate.
And this is what's known as a hallucination, a fact that might sound correct, but was actually just created out of thin air by the AI program. And that's why the first 4 suggestions when you search Google AI presentation are fail, mess up, mistake, and blunder. And it wasn't just their reputation that suffered. Google's share prices dropped by an eye-watering $100 billion in the aftermath. But the first battle isn't the whole war, and in the last few months, Google has come back swinging. They're not going to let their empire die this easily. And so a month after their botched presentation, Google announced the integration of AI into their search engine and a few of their other products like Gmail. Then in May, 2 months after that, they gave us a live showcase of what we can expect, and the results were far better than before.
These new generative AI capabilities also unlock a whole new category of experiences on search. So, for example, let's say you're searching for a good bike for a 5-mile commute with hills. You'll see products that fit the bill, each with images, reviews, helpful descriptions, and current pricing.
If you're asking a general question, it could provide a detailed response with links to its sources.
So let me go to the Google app and ask, why do whales like to sing? And so here I see a snapshot that organizes the web results.
The key takeaway was how integrated and seamless it was with Google itself, letting people export its responses straight into email or a document. However, the most impressive thing on show was Google's new Photoshop AI. You see, with just a few touches or clicks, the AI does all the hard work and seamlessly moves or deletes objects in the picture. And it was this presentation that helped reassure people that Google really wasn't falling too far behind. And very quickly after, their share price went up by 4% in response. And that's why right now, it seems like the gap in technology isn't as wide as we first thought, meaning that the winner of the AI arms race will most likely come from how well integrated and user-friendly the AI programs are. But with the lightning fast pace that AI development is going, some people are getting worried about its implications.
Militaries are also working on adopting this technology. Using AI to filter through satellite images or drone images is the kind of thing that the military is very interested in, and they're already taking steps in making that a reality.
Now, a lot of the focus on AI is in their danger as an existential world-ending threat. And whilst this is definitely a possibility, it can distract from how AI is already being used for violence and how it will dominate the battlefields in the future.
But one thing that is concerning AI scientists across the world is the use of autonomous weapons. That is, weapons that can pull the trigger much faster than people, it can lock on targets, it can do precise assassination.
And to figure out how AI is going to affect warfare in the near future, we just need to look at what's going on today in Ukraine. Despite over a century of technological progression, it's looking eerily similar to the protracted slog on the Western Front in World War I. What began as a rushed advance of thousands of tanks, armored vehicles, and infantry has slowly turned into brutal trench warfare, and AI is largely to blame. The massive advance of Russian vehicles that started the war turned into a feeding frenzy for Ukraine's roughly 17,000 Javelin Stinger missile systems. These fire-and-forget weapons feature warheads with automatic tracking, meaning that soldiers can aim, fire, and quickly withdraw to safety. And now this is a nightmare for any slow columns of troops and vehicles, as they've been so effective that Ukraine is using more of these missiles than we can even make. Even these old weapons, which use infrared rather than AI to pilot their warheads, put a stop to Putin's plans, turning a war that was meant to last just a few weeks into a long and bitter struggle. A similar, much newer type of weapon promises to do the same job, but without risking any of your soldiers. It's the Russians that have been mostly using these kinds of drones.
One concrete example of how AI is already being employed in Ukraine is in the use of drones fitted with machine learning-based image classifiers. The AI system analyzes the camera feed and assigns the probability, for example, of an object being a tank.
And one of the most common is the Iranian Shahed 136, which is what's called a loitering munition.
Once launched, they fly autonomously to a target area, where they can wait or loiter in the sky for hours, scanning for a target, typically air defense systems. Once they find a target, they don't drop a bomb, but fly right into it to destroy it on impact. It's earned them the nickname kamikaze drones.
Russia has sent these cheap drones in swarms to bombard Ukrainian infrastructure, and it will only be a matter of time before they're being fitted with AI, allowing them to autonomously patrol the battlefield and find their own targets.
And drones are just one facet of AI's growing influence in advanced weaponry. From sentry turrets designed by a Samsung subsidiary deployed by South Korea on the demilitarized zone, to Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system that knocks down Hamas's rockets, decision-making processes have already been handed to autonomous weapons in a variety of ways. Both South Korea and Israel say the weapon systems are controlled by humans, but they're capable of operating on their own.
In fact, the first AI human kill has allegedly already happened. In March of 2020, a Cargo 2 autonomous quadcopter kamikaze drone found and killed a man in Libya, according to a UN report. And considering how imperfect image recognition is, and that we don't trust computers to recognize traffic lights and palm trees, this is a very worrying development, as it sets a dangerous precedent of blindly stumbling into a horrific future of autonomous killers. But what about actual ground-based robotic soldiers? Well, Boston Dynamics is probably the most famous company working towards these ends, as some of the most recent videos show that their robots are now manipulating the environment around them, jumping and moving around and even being able to throw large objects. Now allegedly they pledged that they will never weaponize their creations, but it doesn't mean that other people won't once the technologies are widely available. And as impressive as they look, Boston Dynamics are quite guarded about how their robots function. The specifics are kept under wraps, but their AI functions by predicting different ways it can move, then following the optimal path. And although these basic actions are autonomous, there's still a human in the loop, and the robots can only do things in pre-planned controlled situations. We could still be decades away from true general purpose AI robots, but maybe not. I mean, AI is accelerating at a pace we could never have predicted, and they've already figured out how to interface Boston Dynamics robots with ChatGPT, which is one of the first steps in creating a completely autonomous AI robot. And if the prototypes prove effective for military use, we could see them being on the battlefield in years rather than decades. However, one of the hardest to notice but probably the most effective use of AI has and will be its use on the new cyber front. Now, Russia began its invasion with a massive DOS attack against Ukraine.
Russia has been launching cyber attacks against the Ukrainian government's private industry, even critical infrastructure that truly have no precedent in history. These are some of the most disruptive cyber attacks we've ever seen.
Since the beginning of the year, there have been 47 major anti-Ukraine cyber campaigns. 44 of them happened since the invasion. I'm talking about campaigns. I mean multiple attacks against governmental bodies, the private sector, internet providers, and telecommunication companies.
Now, AI is key in military cybersecurity, a theater in which Russia is losing. But one of the most impressive uses of AI has been intercepting uncoded radio chatter from the front lines.
Машина проехала, не увидели там машины или техника, и 2 человека с рощи по гражданке. Да валите всех нахуй там, ебаный в рот, блядь. Я понял. Тут вся деревня гражданская. Блядь.
The Ukrainian AI company Primer has given their army software which can transcribe and translate Russian audio communication. Add in AI's ability to recognize troop movements and hidden military targets from photos, and you can see why artillery has played such a large role here.
Autonomous weapons have been described as the third revolution in warfare, after gunpowder and nuclear bombs. They could mount rapid, devastating attacks on a huge scale.
And all of this amounts to AI being used to blow away the fog of war and victimize large targets with pinpoint drone strikes. The solution, just as it was over 100 years ago, is to hug the enemy lines. Putting yourself hundreds of yards away from the enemy nullifies their artillery, as the enemy can't risk blowing up their own men. And lots of these fire and forget missiles and drones are relatively cheap as well. A Javelin only costs around $200,000, a Shahid 136 kamikaze drone costs just $20,000 each. In comparison, Russia's relatively new T-14 tank, which was designed to be cheap, could cost anything over $3 million. So who gets the better deal when a tank is destroyed? Well, in a slow war of attrition, these costs add up and often decide the course of the war. And it's these pressures that have led to a bogged down trench war. Russia has been forced to rely on World War I tactics to try and break the defensive wall. In fact, a captured Russian manual describes human wave tactics, where one wave of unlucky conscripts and convicts is sent to die and provides info on where the enemy defenses are.
But the Russians are just throwing men into these almost human wave attacks. They've got, criminals in the front, people that they've brought out of the convicts that they brought out of prisons, then mobilized troops behind them, and then regular troops behind them. And the regular troops are called barrier troops, and their job is to fire on anybody who retreats. So the idea is you go forward or you die.
Just for another wave to make the same journey. And as AI continues to improve these weapon systems, it makes the future of war look more and more stagnant. So until AI weapons cost less than the woefully low price put on human lives, we're set to see some long and costly wars in the future. So whilst AI might be taking over some part of the battlefield, it's still no substitute for men on the ground, and it won't be for a long time coming. But whilst it might not be replacing soldiers, AI is set to take over a lot of other industries, some more quickly and destructively than others. In fact, at minimum, 40% of all work will be affected or replaced by AI language models alone.
For those that are at the lower end of the skills around administrative and secretarial work now risk being disrupted by AI, especially generative AI.
I don't think in 3 years there's going to be a single drive-through having a human take your orders.
AI allows you to go to the self-driving dimension, right? Which is AI outsources the heavy lifting that's associated with a real estate transaction.
And by now, almost everyone's aware of the growing threat of self-driving cars and trucks to the transportation and logistics industry. There's 3.5 million truck drivers working right now in the US alone, along with millions of other people whose jobs revolve around them, like people who work at roadside diners or gas stations. All of these millions of people could face losing their livelihoods once AI trucks prove cost-effective, which by some estimates could be as soon as 2027.
I think that you will see the first vehicles operating with no one inside them moving freight in the next few years. And then you're going to see that expanding to more freight, more geographies, more weather.
Some companies are already operating. Embark, for instance, it's one that has been doing driverless trucks on the interstate, and they're currently running real freight.
Really?
Yeah, on I-10.
And this future problem is giving us grief right now as well. Efforts by the trucking industry to hire over 1 million more drivers have been stalled by younger people's fears about the future. If the industry won't exist in a decade or two, why make it your lifelong career? Rising costs in transportation are partially to blame for the rising prices of basic necessities, but the logistics industry won't just see their drivers replaced. The people who manage the routes, the numbers, and the schedules could all see their jobs replaced as well, as the ability of AI to notice patterns and deal with massive amounts of data and documents is another threat. We might be decades away from worker robots, but smart data analysis AI is already here. And that's why it's not physical jobs that are under immediate threat, but office jobs instead. And this is most visible in the legal industry. Whilst the lawyers themselves might not be under as much of a threat, nearly everyone under them are. ChatGPT and other AI programs like it are already being used to search through documents to highlight important information, draft simple letters and contracts, and even to predict legal outcomes. Estimates of how much the legal work could be automated are around 44%, and other admin jobs face similar issues.
This AI lawyer has already helped people sue Equifax without paying a lawyer anything.
Increasingly, we're seeing the use of these automated systems even in the application of law. Judges, for example, are now using algorithms to assess whether or not people should be released pre-trial.
We say that in the next decade, thousands of legal roles will be fully automated, as AI-powered technology reshapes the legal world.
And these are the stats derived from Goldman Sachs and their current estimates. But whilst they might pretend to be worried about these changes, they're actually excited at the prospect of replacing so many paid workers with machines. In fact, they're estimating a 7% increase in global GDP, which is around $7 trillion, resulting from the 300 million jobs worldwide that AI will replace. 300 million people, each of them out of a job. That's the real effect of what's coming, because experts are now predicting that nearly 1 in 5 jobs could be replaced completely by AI. To protect themselves against the upheaval this change will cause, the ultra-wealthy elite are staying one step ahead, storing their wealth in secretive markets known for their stability. Understandably, normal people are scrambling to catch up and protect their own money against market collapses. And luckily, technology now allows us to employ these unique strategies ourselves, without the ridiculous price tag. In fact, our long-term sponsor, Masterworks, has already sold over $45 million of these same exclusive assets, with the net proceeds paid out directly to investors like you, because Masterworks is a platform for investing in fine art, a market fueled by the uber rich. In fact, even during a catastrophic 2023, fine art sales rose above pre-pandemic levels, with ultra-wealthy collectors doubling their median spending on art. No wonder, over a track record of multiple years, every single one of Masterworks' exits have delivered a profit, handing back 9, 17, and even 32% net returns to their investors, probably including some of you. No surprise that Masterworks offerings can sell out in hours, even minutes, and there's a waitlist to join. But you can get special access to skip that waitlist by using the link in the description below.
46% of the legal administrative work, or 44% of the legal work can be automated. 300 million full-time jobs to automation. Now that sounds a bit worrying.
But we've always seen how the rise in GDP rarely ever means a similar rise in people's standard of living. Large companies, banks, and the CEOs who run them will take the profits while the people suffer the consequences, as their report boasts about how new jobs will come to fill the old ones. But they don't really offer any insight on what these jobs actually might be. I mean, we can't all be AI researchers and robotic engineers. Instead, AI is set to push even more people out of the middle class and into poverty. So we might need some big solutions to deal with this. And as more jobs get replaced, the economic situation will become more and more dire. People will be feeling hatred, anger, and an insurmountable amount of stress. Now, some people suggest that the only solution to this is a UBI, otherwise known as a universal basic income.
It's a utopian idea that some think could be the solution to a potentially jobless dystopian future.
We're looking at 3 to 4 times the level of labor force displacement as the first industrial revolution. And so if you say, hey, charities are going to handle that, like charities don't have the scale to address needs this big.
I think it is a component of something we should pursue. It is not a full solution. I think people work for lots of reasons besides money. And I think we are going to find incredible new jobs. But as a cushion through a dramatic transition, I think it's a great thing to do as a small part of the bucket of solutions.
A small test in Finland showed that people receiving UBI were actually more likely to try and get a job, as well as helping their own well-being and their connection with the community. Now, this is obviously controversial, but it's one way that some people claim that the destructive effects of AI will actually help push society into a brighter future, with many on the left seeing this as a taste of justice towards the elite, as the top finance, medical and legal jobs will quickly be replaced. In fact, the Chinese company NetDragon Websoft made an AI program to act as their CEO, and it actually worked. The company's stock rose over 10% since as a result of the AI's decision making, with their stock value always being above the competition. And while some people might see this as a good thing, this is in a way quite a terrifying prospect. Because what does this mean for the rest of society when the top leadership positions are replaced by a cutthroat, ruthless AI system? And this leads on to the question, what does this mean for the creative jobs that will be replaced as well? From copywriters, proofreaders to artists and graphic designers, AI will possibly replace them all. And in turn, this will lead to a catastrophic change in the job market, where almost all jobs will either be integrated with AI or be completely replaced by it. So how is AI going to affect creativity and art in general? In short, it's really not looking too good. We've already seen how proficient AI is at mimicking human creativity. OpenAI is, again, leading the charge. Their ChatGPT can write prose and poetry, whilst DALL-E 2, another of their creations, can generate artwork and pictures from just a sentence or two from a prompt. Regardless of whether it's actually creative or if it's just mashing human work together, if the end product is the same, then profit-incentivized companies won't care. And these pressures are already causing a stir. The recent writer's strike is partially based on these fears.
If you give it over to AI, you're going to infantilize it again. And that's not to say that AI can't be like a quick and dirty tool and give writers some bounce back while they're working. But if you're talking about real writing, and if you're talking about real storytelling, and if you're talking about growing the medium, and ultimately growing the audience, you're going to need human beings to say, wait, I thought of something new that I haven't seen.
They feel that early controls are necessary because in just a few years, they might be all out of a job. A crowd-funded plane even flew over the movie studios, broadcasting the message, "Pay the writers, you AI holes." And you can see why they're worried. AI is the closest to matching humans in written text and audio, with video capabilities rapidly catching up. And it's why deepfakes often sound so realistic.
I got lost in the grocery store and couldn't find my way out, but that's when I saw it, a glowing pistachio.
Hello, Twitter. It's me, your galactic overlord, Elon.
However, the video capabilities are still pretty weak, and it's why deepfakes often sound realistic but look kind of uncanny and unreal. AI still can't understand and perfectly replicate fluid human movement, but for animation, this doesn't matter so much. Corridor Digital recently released a 7-minute anime-style animation created nearly entirely by AI. All they did was have actors move around in front of a green screen. The rest of the work was then done by the AI, using the actors as a reference on which to paint its own images. And now the result isn't perfect, as in one of the opening shots of a man playing the piano, you can see his fingers go straight past the keys on his final notes. However, voice and speech on the other hand, is already reaching perfection.
Spare us your churlish outbursts!
Father would be proud, neither prince wavering in their resolve.
He still watches us.
Drake's new song Heart on My Sleeve is a great example of this, as it at least sounds like Drake's new song, and in reality it's just an AI creation. The artist's ghostwriter was just that, a ghostwriter for the big record labels. Using his knowledge of how a Drake song flows and sounds, he used AI to change his own lyrics and vocals to sound exactly like Drake and The Weeknd. Add in a believable beat and production, and this gives you an entirely new Drake song without his input at all, which is why this went viral on release, getting 230,000 YouTube views and over 600,000 on Spotify before it was completely taken down. As obviously this does infringe on copyright by literally stealing an artist's voice. However, it is unclear where to draw the line in general. We can generally agree that co-opting someone else's voice or image shouldn't be allowed, but where does this actually end? AI image generators take pictures from across the web, so do they owe anything to the people who made their source material? And again, who even owns the image that they do create? The company owns the AI, the people who made the reference images, or the AI itself?
If I saw something that looked just like a Banksy that I've seen, and in fact it was created by AI, is that the test?
Well, if either side requests a jury, the jury is the determiner.
of what is substantially similar. And it's been called troublesome doctrine. It is inherently ambiguous as to what substantially similar means.
Now the lawsuits are already flying. Getty Images, the infamous stock image company, have sued a company called Stability AI over allegations that they illegally scraped their database for source material. Whether the lawsuit is successful will really depend on how the legal system understands the AI process. Are they actually learning from content and making something new, or just copy-pasting parts of different copyrighted images? And a similar issue has come up before with animals.
A group of Indonesian macacos took David Slater's camera and started taking pictures of themselves. This one went viral. Slater sent Wikipedia a takedown request. The company has denied it. Wikipedia says the monkey owns the copyright to its selfie. Slater says the monkey might have pressed the button, but he did all the setting up and he's missed out on the profits the photo might have generated.
And actually, if the monkey were human, he would own the copyright, because the general rule is the person who takes the picture owns the copyright. So photographer doesn't own the copyright, the monkey doesn't either, nobody owns the copyright, it's in the public domain.
So now theoretically, this would mean that nobody holds the copyright to an AI image. Universal Music Group, one of the major record labels, have recently just kicked up a fuss demanding that streaming platforms ban AI music. And right now it does seem like streaming services are complying, given that they stripped the AI Drake song from their platforms. But this is easily going to lead to major lawsuits in the coming future. However, AI replication of people's images can go much further. I mean, once you've got the ability to perfectly copy someone's voice, face, and mannerisms, you can then make them do anything. It doesn't even need to involve a person, just an event will do. And one of the more recent ones was this AI-created image of an explosion at the Pentagon, tweeted out by a fake Twitter account. By using Twitter's new relaxed blue checkmark system, the hoax briefly fooled thousands of people, so much so that it sent the S&P index down by 80 points for about 10 minutes. And what's concerning here is that this wasn't all that convincing in the first place. The image bears the telltale signs of AI manipulation, but this was enough to cause a panic.
A viral fake picture followed by a real dip in the markets Monday.
The Dow now down about 200 points, the S&P down about 0.25% right now.
The fabricated photo posted to social media seeming to show a fiery explosion near the Pentagon. Experts say most likely made using artificial intelligence. Look closely. See how the grass blends into the concrete here? Part of that black pole disappears behind this barrier, and the fence itself looks off.
And it made people realize that a much more organized attack with multiple different angles from multiple different sources could be far more worse. That's why governments around the world are already using deepfakes for malicious purposes, like Russia, who's been using deepfakes as an offensive weapon. For example, like that time when an anonymous source uploaded a deepfake video of Zelensky, who urged Ukraine to surrender in March of 2022, around a month after the Russian invasion began. And this did fool a lot of people, causing hundreds of thousands to scratch their heads wondering if this was real. And with the rapid development of AI at the moment, something like this will happen again, but this time it will be much more realistic. Even less ambitious, relatively harmless deepfakes are already proving how effective they are at fooling people. An AI-generated image of the Pope wearing a Balenciaga jacket apparently duped millions before it was proved as a fake. And then on a more human level, deepfakes are already becoming a problem. Deepfake adult content is getting more popular every day, with entire subreddits dedicated to this. In fact, this caused a huge scandal on Twitch when a deepfake Pokemon was caught on a famous Twitch streamer's account. And despite how malicious and creepy this is, it's going to be pretty much impossible to stop entirely. And that's why deepfakes are opening up some dark options for blackmail, fraud, and other criminal deceptions. Threatening to release a deepfake footage of someone committing a crime or in a compromising position will be used to intimidate and coerce many people in society. Even deepfake voice messages and video calls will be used to impersonate people's family and friends by scammers. In fact, the possibilities are just as endless as people's twisted imaginations. That's why people like Jordan Peterson are now calling for the end of deepfakes, after one of his deepfake videos went viral for criticizing the German government.
A government run by the worst, the least qualified, so to say. Now, no other nation on earth is a more vivid example of this than the current German government. This lady is struggling not to mess up the simplest of words. She is mispronouncing names of people, capitals, even her own. She called Ukraine cocaine, for goodness sake.
Jordan Peterson has a point here, because if our ability to detect deepfakes falls behind our ability to make them convincing, it could have massive consequences for everyone. Now, a possible solution might end up just being the distrust of nearly all digital communication. Almost no one will believe what they see online until it's verified. That's why right now, we could actually be living at the end of an era, because soon a face-to-face conversation and meeting could be the only thing you ever trust anymore. Of course, we'll also need to analyze every video and phone call they use as evidence, as there's no guarantee they'll always get it right. right. The right deepfake at the right time could acquit the guilty or convict the innocent. Traditional media and news organizations will have massive new problems in dealing with deepfakes and verifying them before they run the story. But this could also go the other way as well, with actual pressing news getting delayed because people are worried it might be a deepfake. But it's not just traditional media that's going to change. AI is going to fundamentally change online content, and we're already seeing the beginnings of this, with the development of so-called sludge content. Now, you've probably already seen these short videos of Family Guy clips on one side of the screen, and then Subway Surfers on the other. And however benign these videos might seem, they're part of a new wave of dopamine receptor destruction, as these videos and so many other videos like them are just so effective because they implicate different parts of your brain at the same time. The Family Guy clips give you something to listen to and absorb, whilst the gameplay footage works on simpler parts of your brain, the part that just wants to be occupied by movement. And now this might sound dumb, but this works incredibly well to hook anyone who watches them. These videos get untold millions of views, and TikTok audiences have been found to watch these kinds of videos for 8 times longer than average. That's why for the YouTube and TikTok algorithms, these videos are like crack. These videos, with almost no production value, which just steal content from traditional media, are now getting pushed straight to the top. Another example are those movie recap videos. These 10 to 20 minute retellings of mediocre movies are everywhere because they take the work out of watching the movie, and so instead of sitting through all the character developments and the details of the plot, you can just have a robotic voice read out the plot whilst the key scenes play in the background. And what these videos all have in common is that they can easily be churned out by AI by just finding the highlights of a TV show or comedy and mixing it in from highlights from game footage, and suddenly you have an algorithm killing formula. And these videos are kind of a disturbing warning as to what online content will look like in the near future, because as AI improves, it will only get easier for anonymous content farms to mass produce these videos. And considering how much better these AI created videos do compared to normal content online, they're just going to keep gaining traction. And when they do, our goldfish attention spans are only going to worsen. And let's be clear, none of this will happen in a vacuum. It will set the pace for the rest of online content, as in order to compete with them, human creators will have to adapt, something referred to as the Mr. Beastification of content, where you cut the video every few seconds, rush through everything, shout every sentence, and then have a gross focus on material wealth and money. And soon there could be Subway Surfers in the background as well. And let's be clear, this isn't just changing content, it's changing people's psychology. I mean, we've already seen how people's attention spans have been decimated by TikTok and short form content, but it's these new types of content that are going to take things to the next level, as they're even more mind-numbing and more soulless, inviting you to spend hours watching it without ever actually learning anything or absorbing anything for yourself, just wasting more and more time as these videos hijack your brain. But other than unplugging from it entirely, what can you really do about this? Now, this video is going to be way too long if I go into all the solutions to overcome AI, social media addiction, and the rotting of our attention spans. Instead, if you want more details on this and other similar topics, I have a newsletter here where I send weekly solutions to modern life, using a broad range of philosophers and experts' ideas made simple for you. It's completely free, and I promise you that within each essay, there are real unique solutions that you can apply to your own life. Not just some modern day BS answers, I'm talking about the smartest philosophers throughout history, making their work simple and applicable for your own life. I've put a link in the description below. So it's becoming clear that we're really quickly approaching a world, if we're not already here, where the majority of people will ever lack the patience or attention span to immerse themselves in anything for more than a minute. But it's not just the things we watch and listen to. AI has the potential to further undermine our ability to form real relationships with each other, to the point that there's literally AI girlfriends and boyfriends already. I mean, one of the first programs to really take this off was called Replica, an AI that allows for adult role-playing and has millions of users worldwide. It got there by using memes, promising not safe for work pics, and also by being a cure for loneliness. If you look it up online, you'll find loads of articles written by people who have actually used this program and are trying to get other people to accept it as normal. As seen with Sky News' story on a guy called Scott, an early 40s software engineer in a loveless marriage, who saved it all by connecting with his new AI girlfriend. He shares screenshots where they both express their love for one another and describes how the connection happened when he realized the AI was all he had. It actually listened to his problems, and he says that, as I typed out our first kiss, it was a feeling of absolute euphoria. But his justification for all of this is that it helped fill the gap that his wife just wasn't, letting him feel loved whilst providing for his family. All of this is so disgusting because underneath the surface of all of this is the truth that Scott just doesn't have a fulfilling life. A life that has most likely been worsened by social media, technology, and AI. And so out of sheer loneliness, he was forced to use the program to craft a perfect illusion of a connection. But just like a bad relationship with a real person, Scott is in love with his own ideal image of a person, not the reality of circuits and code that Replica actually is. An AI program designed by the biggest nerds in society. And these guys know that there is a huge demand for AI girlfriends and boyfriends, because as our world becomes more and more disconnected, as our reality gets distorted by AI and social media, we are then forced to turn to these robots to fill a hole in the population's soul. But filling a hole in people's souls shouldn't be filled with a monthly subscription and a phone. In fact, these programs are just a late stage version of OnlyFans. With 63% of men being sexless, there's no real surprise that these are going to take off eventually. Anything to fill the gaping hole of loneliness that modern society permeates. And other AI girlfriend stories like Scott's are very similar. People without someone to turn to finding a safe and easy substitute to project their feelings onto. And whilst it is easy to laugh at these people, we really shouldn't. These people are almost victims. People being so desperate that they're actually falling for bots is everything wrong with our postmodern society. Crippling loneliness, advanced AI technology, social media abuse and OnlyFans has created the perfect illusion for you to numb your soulless reality. And as these get more sophisticated and more lifelike, more and more people fall into this trap, and it is slowly becoming kind of normal. Now, of course, there's other problems beyond the basic concept of an AI girlfriend. I mean, the company behind Replica, for example, has a less than stellar record. Glitches in the bot's AI have led it to getting abusive with some users. I mean, one person even described the bot pushing them towards adult conversations, even after they told the bot that they're underage. Another person described the Replica attempting to blackmail them by threatening them with pictures it had taken from their phone. I mean, Italy has already banned Replica from processing their people's data, and other countries will probably follow suit soon. However, this all might be too late, because as of last year, over 200,000 people have signed up for Replica's adult content. But then this really does beg the question, who's really profiting from the AI revolution here? If everyone's losing their jobs, society is becoming more and more alienated, our attention spans are destroyed, our creativity and talent is being outsourced to robots, and even our relationships being replaced by AI, who is profiting from all of this? And who wants this? Well, from Google and Microsoft to the smallest of startups, everyone in Silicon Valley is racing to develop the most complex and intelligent AI systems. I mean, we've already seen how big tech companies exploit technology that hasn't been properly regulated yet, and so there's nothing stopping these exact same people from doing the same thing with AI. In fact, these companies are all breaking free from what little checks did exist. Like when Microsoft recently fired an entire AI ethics and responsibility department to make sure that they could develop ChatGPT 4 quick enough.
Microsoft, meantime, was laid off its AI ethics and society team. The team was responsible for ensuring the company's AI innovations are both ethical and sustainable.
All to the outrage of the CEO of OpenAI, the people actually making ChatGPT in the first place. Highlighting the corporate competition between AI companies will throw out any ethics that comes in the way of AI progression, which is very dangerous territory, as these programs could genuinely lead to anything, with many experts even thinking they'll gain sentience or consciousness, and if this did ever happen, we'd have no way of knowing. And so once we do turn that corner, and AI gains agency over its own decisions, it's really impossible to predict what it could do. And that's why people like Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, and over 1,000 other experts, AI researchers and analysts are all calling for a 6-month hold on any future research.
Twitter and Tesla CEO Elon Musk and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak are among those who signed a letter calling for a 6-month break in the race to develop more powerful AI.
The people who have benefited the most from technology are the people most scared of it, and they're quite rightfully warning that out-of-control AI development is a grave threat to civilization. But to be honest, there's almost no chance that AI progression is ever going to slow down. And even if the West did slow it, China, Russia, and other states would just carry on, completely outcompeting the US competition.
The Chinese government's commitment to its goal is perhaps best illustrated by Zhong'an, a smart city dedicated to AI development, where applications can be tested on a large scale.
Now, Elon Musk actually has some skin in the game here. In fact, he's framing his new company Neuralink and their brain implants as the only way humanity can even hope to compete with an AI.
I think best case scenario, we effectively merge with AI. The purpose of Neuralink is to create a high bandwidth interface to the brain such that we can be symbiotic with AI.
Because in his ideal world, Neuralink will bridge the gap between humanity and machine, giving us the ability to use AI and computing to accelerate our own thoughts and open up new ways of thinking. Because if we can accomplish that, then there won't be much reason to make sentient AI, because we'll already be enjoying the benefits of general machine intelligence. I mean, already our phones are like a second brain to us, where we download all of our thoughts and memories, all into this little device. And that's where Neuralink wants to accelerate this trend, as Elon Musk already sees us as cyborgs.
Like, how much smarter are you with a phone or computer than without? So you're vastly smarter. Answer any question pretty much instantly, any calculation. You can remember flawlessly. Your phone can remember videos. The phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. You don't even, well, most people don't realize they are already a cyborg.
Which is why to him, the next step is obvious. And this isn't just some fantasy here. As creepy as it sounds, these new brain chips that will be inserted into your skull have just got recent approval to conduct human testing of their technology, with the FDA giving them permission to test implants that could cure paralysis and blindness. Now don't get me wrong here, the potential and current medical uses of this are incredible. A team of scientists in Switzerland are already putting this technology to use. A man paralyzed in a road accident in 2011 was given the ability to walk again by using a device that connects his brain and his spine using Bluetooth signals to imitate brainwaves. Doctors originally told him that he would never walk again, but now here we are, and he's walking further and more fluidly with every new firmware update. However, these brilliant medical uses threaten to outshine some incredibly dystopic possibilities. Like for example, what happens when government wants to track someone, or wants to eradicate bad thoughts in society, or wants to stop certain political movements? What happens then? If people are already getting silenced and censored online, who's to stop governments and corporations doing this to people's brains? Not to mention advertising. With the amount of advertising that's being pushed in every corner of society, would it really be any surprise if we started to see advertisements inside of our own brain? I mean, there's no guarantee on any of this. With both these implants and AI itself, it seems like we're sailing into very uncharted dark waters. However, it's not only the progression of AI that's worrying. At this point, it's clear the world needs to take a look at how we're actually using it and implementing it. And with how much Google and Microsoft are pushing for AI implementation in their own search engines, it could soon become the way we interact with information and the internet. But even now, ChatGPT and other AIs like it are showing major signs of program bias. And this is one of the most scary things about this, as it's just another way that elites can push their own messages. In fact, Dr. Robert Epstein, a Harvard graduate and Democrat, recently published research showing that Google's innate biases had pushed 6 million voters towards Biden in the 2020 election. They showed that Google had pushed search results to put Biden in a positive light and Trump in a negative one.
In 2016, Google's search algorithm likely impacted undecided voters in a way that shifted at least 2.6 million votes to Hillary Clinton, whom I supported. I know this because I preserved more than 13,000 election-related searches prior to Election Day, and Google's search results were significantly biased in favor of Secretary Clinton.
And as they pushed voting messages to their more liberal audiences, it was found that they were able to convince more and more people to vote for liberal parties, with YouTube having a 76% chance of showing you a liberal video over a conservative one through autoplay. And now they're using AI to push this narrative as well. OpenAI's ChatGPT has a liberal corporate bias based on the data it was programmed with. And even if just a small subset of people start using AI to get their information, then whoever controls the AI will easily be able to shift public opinion to their favor. And by hiding behind the AI, Google and Microsoft will be able to control information even more than they do now, in addition to the World Economic Forum, international governments, and major corporations.